Well, I was going to spend this fine summer Thursday talking to you guys a little bit more about Lord Draconis Mons and the stuff that goes on with the Druids there and the building of that new backpack, which I really haven't sunk my teeth into yet. However, as you all know, we are in the middle of the competitive feature pack, and last night the devs did release a blog post, very interesting indeed, giving us more details about the new PvP lobby and about automated tournaments. The new 2v2 map isn't really here, so that's a little bit of a shame. I guess we'll be waiting a bit longer. However, there was also an interview with MMORPG and two of the developers talking a bit about these revamps. Now remember guys, the Heart of the Mist revamp, if you watched my video from last week, is probably one of the things I'm most excited about, which is really stupid, especially considering automated tournaments could finally be a consistent, long-term competitive outlet for team play in Guild Wars 2, which has really been missing for a long time. You know, you can look at the post Heart of Thorns days so far as them doubling down and focusing on what the core experience is all about, which is the leagues, which everybody does in their solo or duo queues now. And now we've got that very sincere need for the team play stuff, which they're talking about transitioning into. So let's just go straight to the post, enough from me, and see exactly what the devs have been saying here. So they say, hello Tyrians, in the June 20th update, we're making substantial changes to the Heart of the Mists by introducing a new way for players to compete as an organized team, a new area where players can gather to celebrate their achievements, and a few other surprises. So, no mention of the 2v2 map on June 20th. Now, if you're watching this video right when I've released this, that's in just 5 days. It's the 15th right now. They released the blog post on the 14th, just 5 days from now before we actually get to see this. So if I'm going to do a tour of the original lobby, I really should get on that, right? But yeah, so those are the two big things that are coming here. First, they want to talk about automated tournaments, and they've got this wonderful, very PvP subheading, Get Good. Automated tournaments are the new peak of player versus player competition in Guild Wars 2. The new peak, i.e. we're not going to try and do these inconsistent weird lands with prize pools and blah blah blah. This is the new peak, right? You'll be able to compete in 3 different daily single elimination tournaments as part of a 5-person team to earn gold and qualifying points, the latter of which can land you a spot in the monthly tournament. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if PvEers listening to me right now just sort of heard a lot of jargon. So let's dive into this very clearly as possible. Every day you can have 3 different tournaments. They'll be in different time slots, probably, so that no matter where you are in the world, there's a reasonable chance for you to get in and enjoy it. You can participate in these tournaments, and there'll be single elimination, which means that if your team loses, you're out. And so you want to beat all your opponents to keep climbing through the tournament until you are the sole victor. Now, if you do this, and it's only 5-person teams versus 5-person teams versus 5-person teams, if you do this, you will earn gold, and you'll also get something called qualifying points. I wonder if the qualifying points will appear as like a currency in the wallet, as an item, or they'll appear purely on the PvP panel, because those who remember in the very early days, these QPs basically existed on the PvP panel, and then they scrapped the whole thing, and then they moved to all this other stuff, and now finally we're going back to that style of thing again. So maybe we'll see those qualifying points on the panel, we'll see. But the top teams by the end of the month who have gathered as many qualifying points as possible, then you kind of, the people with all the top, they will be filtered into a large monthly tournament. And then the big monthly tournament will have more rewards of the same style, but they'll be what ArenaNet describe as the most prestigious prizes in Guild Wars 2 PvP. Including the Glorious Heroes armor set, which is funny because from the interview and so forth, it doesn't really sound like there's much more than the Glorious Heroes armor set in terms of like pure prestige stuff, but we'll see. So the Glorious Heroes armor, if you guys don't know what it is, it was originally released in 2014. Now, I've heard some people complaining that it's not enough because, oh lol, they're just recycling skins. I think that's a bit narrow-minded because unless I'm wrong about this, and please tell me in the comments if I am, I believe you could only get that for a brief window, and only the best of the best were getting it. So it's not like everyone's running around with Glorious Heroes armor. It might not look that good, it might not appeal to many of you, but at least it is a signifier that you're good at the game and good at PvP. It's not like we've all just got our wardrobes full of it. So even if it may be a recycled 2014 thing, it's not been available. So it is still a very, you know, exciting thing, I think, for a lot of people. But hey, maybe that's a discussion for a little bit later. Next, they have a bit of a bombshell. They say that you can get Mystic Coins and Llamas. Coins, I like that the devs have finally decided, yeah, coins are a worthwhile thing to give to people. We saw a lot of those coming in on the new World versus World rewards as well. Llamas, I really don't care about. I mean, God, why are they hammering so hard with the llama thing? Fine, we get more llamas, but check this out. Players' likenesses will be sculpted into statues to stand at the PvP lobby entrance as a challenge to all competitors until the next monthly tournament. So that's a really weird reward. It reminds me very much of back in GW1, where they kind of did a competition where players, I think it was winning players, or it was just people would submit their builds to make a bunch of henchmen people could roll with in the later years for Heroes Ascent, and they looked like the players and they had the players' names. So every month there's going to be statues that change that look like the people who won. That might not be too interesting to a lot of seasoned PvPers, but I do think that that's exactly the kind of thing that will get a prospective, very new Guild Wars 2 player to be excited. They'll be like, wow, I could get my statue here in front of everyone. I do think people will be excited about that, just maybe not the people at the very top end already. I mean, we have had similar stuff like that wall that people could go and press F on to see the names of the winners. This is a bit more visual than that, and I do think is a good improvement. We'll have to see how that really works. There's been so much discussion about these rewards and people saying that they're not enough. I just get sad when I see that. I get sad when so much focus is put on the rewards and that the game type isn't necessarily fun in and of itself to just keep people playing, that we all have to be playing for some carrot on a stick at the end. It's not just that Guild Wars 2's PvP is awesome and that's it. It's a real shame that so many people have to be enticed over. Like we saw, you know, in Season 5 with the Ascended stuff, and then they nerfed the Ascended stuff and everybody just left again. It really sucks, because Guild Wars 2 PvP is, at its core, I think, quite fun, especially once you get over that fairly steep learning curve. Maybe that's the real problem. But so, moving on, here's a quick screenshot of said statues, and that, of course, is the new Heart of the Mists. So, the next section here says, changes. As PvP changes, so do the Mists. The new PvP lobby is a place to celebrate and highlight your achievements while providing some entertainment during the downtime between matches. You'll have access to the same key features, training golems, merchants, a banker, and so forth. But we're giving it a makeover with a new environment and a new layout. Explore crumbling ruins and shattered islands, slug it out in a free-for-all brawling area, and keep an eye out for some hidden surprises. Okay, so Shattered Islands, I kind of get the impression that this will look like the Fractal lobby, I guess, a bit, in that now it's going to be sensitive to the fact gliding exists in Guild Wars 2 and we'll be able to glide to those different islands. I think that will be quite fun. From the screenshots we see, it actually doesn't look that different or that much more impressive than the old Heart of the Mists right now, which kind of disappoints me, because as I've said, a huge amount of PvP stream time is just looking at this kind of crappy lobby. So I'm really curious to see what the devs have done there. Yes, all of the old things will be coming back. There are actually crafting sections and things we'll talk about as well in a second. But they say, yes, a free-for-all brawling area. In my video last week, I did suggest that maybe we should get something like that. A place where people can just fight without having to go into hot joins or anything like that. That's pretty cool, and it won't be hyper-competitive there, and there will be a lot of cheesiness and trolliness, because anyone can run in. The devs themselves on Reddit have described this as more of a brawling environment than a 1v1ing environment. I think people do need to bear that in mind. There's going to be complaining that people are interfering with one another's 1v1s, just like you see a lot in, say, World versus World, when people get together and they want a 1v1 and someone else will just charge along. But the interview gives us a little bit more clarity on that. They also say some hidden surprises. What kind of hidden surprises are those, I wonder? Could it be like, you know, that hidden skeleton dude that's in the current Heart of the Mists? Is there maybe a jumping puzzle? Just like there's an unfinished, weird, half-baked jumping puzzle in the current Heart of the Mists? I guess we'll have to see. But hell yes for the free-for-all. I'm very excited. And I think that will make, generally speaking, a lot of streams more fun to watch, as much as actually playing the game and all those downtime. Not just downtime from queuing in leagues now, by the way, but there'll be downtime and waiting as the automated tournaments go on too. And obviously having fun stuff to do in the meantime is important. Moving on, they also say glory awaits. Now, this is an extra thing that they've got in the new Heart of the Mist. It's kind of interesting. The new PvP lobby includes Champion's Rest. It's a lounge reserved for the best of PvP players. This exclusive earned prestige area provides convenient access to crafting, the Mystic Forge, your bank, and the trading post. Players in Champions Rest can even add a little extra danger to the fighting pit below with a special consoles. Gain access to this privilege by proving your worth in PvP League seasons and monthly tournaments. Prepare for battle, fight for glory, see you in the mists. Alright, so this is a bit of a weird idea, but I think I see what the devs are going for. The first thing that will strike you is, why would the very best of the best PvPers care that much about, like, crafting stations and so forth? I think that's a really good question. What I think the devs have done here is they've seen that they've been making sales on the gem store, selling exclusive lobbies to people, like the Crown Pavilion area, like the Captain's Airship Pass, like Noble's Folly, and so on and so on and so on. And so I think that they've said, well, look, people obviously like this across the game, so why don't we just give it for free? Oh, look, you don't even have to spend gems on it, but only to the best PvP players. And it is exclusive, but that is kind of what PvP is all about, right? It's about wanting to be the best of the best and being able to show off for that. I kind of like the idea, I think, of being able to be that snob up in the upper area and looking down on people. So that's where they're coming from at it, I think, even though, realistically speaking, not too many of the best PvPers are going to care too much about Champion Rest. Again, maybe if we think about it from like a streaming perspective, and maybe you guys can understand why I might be more obsessed with that angle of things than most players, but maybe it will be more interesting to watch streams where people are walking around in Champions Rest and you know you can't go there. It's not really that good though, is it? I mean, the other thing as well they talk about is this special console that lets you mess with people brawling. It seems very similar to what they were going with the guild halls, where they liked the idea of lots of people brawling, and you know, you'd have that one decorator throwing chaos into the mix as it was going on and dropping fire turrets and things on people. We'll see whether any of that style stuff really pays off for PvP here. But again, that could be even worse if you're trying to, you know, seriously 1v1 someone in the brawling area, and someone from Champions Rest just drops some horrible trolly thing on the both of you. That'd be quite funny, no? But you'd hate it if you were on the receiving end. So yeah, that's what they say. Fight for glory, see you in the mist. That was the original post. Really, everything that I expected. New lobby, introduces gliding stuff in there. All of that makes a lot of sense. The curveballs, I think, with the statues, were Champions Rest in general. And also the free-for-all actually hearing that confirmed that's coming in is great, because I think that's a really, really good idea. But yeah, so you might be wondering at this point, well, what is the requirement to get into Champions Rest? Like, is it legendary only people? Is it like platinum 2 and up people? Because they say it's for winning the tournaments and for high league placement. What is it? Well, I was wondering about that. I was kind of hoping it would be platinum 2 up, because platinum 2 is where I capped out. I wasn't able to get like any higher than that. I didn't get to legendary or platinum 3. That was the highest I managed to get when I played competitively. So that would be about as much as I could push. Well, they do explain in the interview in a second. So just hold that thought, and I'll talk to you guys more about how you get in there, because it is very exclusive. So yeah, let's talk about the interview. It's with a guy called Grant Gertz, and it's also with Benjamin Fonglangwantham. I'm sorry, I have no way I've said his name correctly. But so yeah, MMORPG asked some questions. I actually think MMORPG's questions were pretty good, and we did get a little bit more information from this blog post here instead of just rehashing the same stuff. So first of all, they bluntly say, look, why are you adding a new lobby? They both give answers to each question. I think Grant gives the best answer of them both here. So he says this, that players spend a lot of time in the lobby, whether it's in queue, to chat and discuss PvP with other players, or with the introduction of the automated tournaments while waiting between tourney matches. We wanted to provide players with a fresh map to explore and enjoy during these times. The previous lobby predated gliding and leagues. We took the opportunity with the introduction of automated tournaments to create a lobby that better incorporated gliding and provided avenues to celebrate our top players. I'm a little upset that they didn't say, yeah, we wanted to push the graphical capabilities, we wanted to make it look more flavorful and so on. And I'm a bit worried that it will come out looking really bland again, but we'll see. They also were asked, how big is the free-for-all arena? Like, how many people can actually brawl in there? Is it just going to be little 3v3s kind of thing? They say that it's supposed to be big enough for 10 people comfortably. Now, that might still leave you wondering how big it is. So Grant explains that the closest size approximation is probably the middle point on Faux Fire. So if that is what I don't actually think that that's big enough for 10 people comfortably, or if you want to have some little 1v1s, you'll see maybe 2 1v1s going on at once on those old 1v1 maps on Faux Fire, very little more. So it is actually quite small. The other thing to think about, again, are like the Guildhall arenas, right? How big were those? And I think that the devs really aired on them being too small, and it sounds like they might have on the free-for-all thing here as well. The bigger is of course better, but we shall see. MMORPG asked another great question. They basically said, look, why did automated tournaments take so long? And it's a great question, because automated tournaments were a cornerstone of the way that Guild Wars 1 was running. A lot of Guild Wars 1 streams that you still watch to this day are, guess what, GVGs and people in ATs, right? They were great in Guild Wars 1. They even had extra supplementary features like being able to bet on the outcomes and so forth if you were, you know, not someone who was participating, but you just wanted to get involved. It was fantastic in GW1. And then we had something vaguely similar to it right at launch of Guild Wars 2 that then got scrapped. And now finally, after, you know, a year, well over a year after Hearthstones came out, we've got them in Guild Wars 2. So they basically said, as far as post-Hearthstones is concerned, they wanted to prioritize the league stuff first. And I do think that's smart. It's essentially because the league stuff is the baseline, right? There's no point having ATs if your average players have got nothing to latch onto and play, you know, constantly and really get a great fix out of. ATs are like the final piece on the horizon of the PvP landscape, right? Like, it's now, once these ATs have come in, we've got a really nice progression where people start off doing a bit of hot joins to gain some ranks, then finally they're going to be going into unranked, then they'll be playing ranked, they might meet a friend, do some duo queues, do some duo queues a little bit later again and find success. All of a sudden they've got a roster of different people on their friends list, enough for to field a team of 5. They're all doing brilliant in the leagues, and then they finally end up as a 5-man group over in the ATs. That is the full progression right there, and that's quite nice, I think. So that's what they explain, and I think that if I was them, I would have focused on the league stuff too. Maybe it's just the point that this all took too long that people are upset about, not necessarily the prioritization. MMORPG asks, who exactly gets to go to Champions Rest? So this is what I was talking about a second ago. Who gets to be there? How exclusive is this? So this is what they say, that the top 25 of a league season get to go, or the top 4 of the monthly automated tournament. So that is just... all right, and this is where maybe Champions Rest starts to be a bit more exciting to me. That is just 20 players from tournaments and 25 players from the leagues. That is very, very, very few people. And don't forget, leagues aren't monthly. The opportunity to place at the top of a league is even less frequent than every month. So that is a really slight amount of the population. So that's really, really crazy. I'm wondering as well what happens if they overlap, right? Because it's very likely that the people who win the monthly automated tournaments are the guys who are also at the very top of Legendary and competing for the top 25 slots in the league. So that's going to be doubling up a lot, right? Which means I really don't think you'll see 45 different players up there all the time. You're going to see even less than that. And that's pretty crazy. So the way that this works, by the way, is if you do secure one of these, the game will give you a pass. And the pass you can double click to get there. It's a lot like, if you remember when, say, the Crown Pavilion area first came out, or the airship pass, you could either get like temporary ones that would allow you to go to these special places for a very brief period of time, or a permanent one from the gem store. Well, there is no such thing as a permanent Champions Rest thing. There's no such thing as a permanent one. They're all temporary. And so if you win very high on a monthly tournament, you'll get like one of these passes which will let you go up there for 2 weeks. They do give the specifics, but that's essentially the system they've got there. And you can see how this is just always automatic. No one's manually assigning people to Champions Rest. It's all about those items, essentially. And really, that's about it from the interview. They do give some more clarifications on Reddit. So these statues that people can become when they win these automated tournaments, the statues do not support outfits, and they do not support backpacks. So if you load in with an outfit, the game's going to look at what the actual armor is that you're wearing under it. I kind of like that. It means that Fashion Wars 2, outside of outfits, is more important for PvP. So that's kind of cool. It's a shame about the backpacks, though, obviously. And someone on Reddit immediately asked, all right, what happens if we win naked? Which already is extraordinary, if you manage to do that. But what if you won naked? Would you get a naked statue up there? I think that's actually really cool, because that's an uphill struggle to win naked, as long as the scene is actually competitive. And that would be really funny to see and really extraordinary to find the day that somebody manages to get a naked statue up there. But the devs apparently already anticipated players might eventually try that. And they have a thing in place where if you go in naked, it's just going to show basic armor on any armor slot you weren't wearing. So if you're naked except for a top hat, and you win, your statue will be fully armored in basic armor, but with the top hat kind of thing. And, you know, the same goes for any other armor slot or combination you might try. So that's a real shame, I think, but maybe it's for the best in that horrible situation where Guild Wars 2 becomes so uncompetitive one day that monthly tournaments are ending with pure naked statues going up there. That would be pretty gross, right? And so that's it, really, guys. That's what's happening. That's just 5 days away. How are you guys feeling? Interested at all? Are the rewards good enough? Is it a shame to you as well that so much discussion ends up going onto the reward? Like I say, Mystic Coins are nice, Llamas are lame, and I am fairly happy to see Glorious Heroes armor. I think that the Glorious Heroes armor is getting a little bit too much shit thrown at it. I think, for now at least, it is still pretty prestigious, and it is something that, you know, really good players can go for, wear, and say, hey, look, I've got this pretty rare thing on me right now. So there you go, guys. That's the competitive pack. Thanks very much for watching. If they do give more information on the last thing, really, which is the 2v2s, I'll be sure to fill you in on that as well as the week goes by. I hope you've all had a wonderful day. Like I said, it's been so summery and amazing. I've never spent so much time outside. Thanks, guys. I'll catch you next time.